They said UFOs disappear at dawn, but I found out where they go. I wasn't looking for it. I was looking for a quiet night and some empty road, the kind where the radio fades to static and the stars finally remember your name. East of Palmdale, the desert opens like a wound. Asphalt, sand, black sky. I pulled over because the engine felt hot and the air felt wrong. That's when the light found me. Not a plane, not a drone, no red blink, no engine. It hung above the highway like a slow, patient thought. White at first, then blue, then something in between, the kind of color only cameras can see. It pulsed once. The radio cracked like bone. My headlights dimmed and came back like they were embarrassed. I stepped out. The night was a bowl. Coyotes somewhere. A distant semi chewing up the grade. I raised my phone like an idiot tourist, and the camera refused. Black screen, then a line, then nothing. The light slid. No sound. It drifted toward the mountains, the way a coin slides under a sleeve. I felt it pull at my chest like a magnet behind the ribs. I don't know why I followed. I just did. Back in the car. Ignition. Tires whispering on old tar, the kind of whisper you only hear when you're alone. I kept it in sight until it didn't want to be seen. When it dimmed, the radio hissed. When it brightened, my dashboard went soft, like the numbers were underwater. I turned the dial past every station. Only one voice came through, buried and jagged. Hold, do not. Then silence. Then a pure tone that tasted like pennies. The light paused over a dry lake bed. Big, flat, cold. Wind cut through my jacket like debt. The moon was a bruise behind thin clouds. I killed the engine and listened. Nothing. Then the tone again, but softer, as if the sand itself was singing. I laid my palm on the hood. It hummed with it. I don't remember smiling, but I remember my teeth, the feeling of them, the animal in me, awake and interested. It stayed there for a long time, not moving, just thinking. I mapped it with the stars. I marked the time on an old receipt. I drew a circle around the lake bed in my mind and wrote a word inside it. Why? A coyote yipped. The light twitched like a heartbeat under skin and climbed. Not fast, not dramatic. Just gone from here and then there, higher, smaller, a pinprick that remembered it had work to do. It drifted east. I chased it across the flats until the road became suggestion. The sand kept the car honest. I kept the wheel light, the way you hold a baby or a bomb. When the light vanished, I parked and waited. Dawn filed its paperwork in the east. A cold line. A promise I didn't trust. I sat with the notebook I keep for things I can't say out loud. I sketched what I saw. A circle, a pulse, a soft disc with edges that refused to be edges. I wrote the time, the tone, the way the hair on my forearms leaned toward it like grass under wind. Somewhere behind me, the wind turbines woke, blades carving the morning into usable pieces. A plane stitched a silver seam far higher than my night had been. The radio found a station arguing about traffic. I turned it off. I needed silence to hear what wasn't there. I told myself to go home, shower, sleep, pretend the world was still the world. I started the engine, felt the vibrations settle into my bones, and watched the sun lift over the line of rock. The light was gone, but it wasn't. When the sun cleared the ridge, the tone returned. Just a thread, just enough to pull. The needle on my cheap EMF meter, yes, I keep one, don't ask, nudged like it had a secret. I turned the car south, toward the broken teeth of the desert mountains. The tone got stronger. The air felt thinner, like altitude without the climb. A ridge cut the sky ahead, a dark jaw holding back the light. On its far side, something pulsed. Not the sun, not a helicopter's lazy blink. A clean, humanless rhythm. I drove into it, like a moth, like a prayer, like someone who already knows he won't stop. The road turned from asphalt to dirt, from dirt to something that didn't deserve a name. I followed tire tracks that weren't mine, shallow grooves filled with wind-blown sand, leading somewhere the map refused to admit existed. The light on the horizon pulsed again, slow, measured, almost patient. Every flash felt like a heartbeat syncing with mine. It wasn't bright anymore, just steady, guiding. The radio was dead now, not static, dead. Every frequency flatlined, even the emergency bands. My phone showed no signal, though a soft vibration pulsed in its casing, like it was receiving something beyond the screen's courage to show. I killed the headlights. The desert stretched ahead, blue-gray under the weak moon, mountains shaped like the backs of sleeping gods. The light hovered between two peaks, perfectly still. I left the car running, a nervous habit, and stepped out into the cold. The silence was surgical, not the usual desert quiet. This was engineered silence. It pressed on my eardrums, heavy and exact, like soundproof glass wrapped around the world. Then I heard it, faint, buried under the hush, a low hum, mechanical but breathing. Not from the sky, from below. I climbed a ridge of stone, boots crunching shale, every sound swallowed an instant after it was made. The light ahead flickered once, then split. Two beams now, vertical, parallel, descending slowly toward the valley floor. I crouched at the crest. Below me stretched a canyon, narrow and steep, like the earth had been sliced open by precision tools. The beams floated down into it, and then nothing. Gone. For a moment I thought I'd lost it. Then the ridge to my right shivered. Dust poured off it in slow motion. And there, half hidden by rock and shadow, a shape moved, geometric, not natural. Steel. I blinked, thought my eyes were lying. But no, there it was. A door, massive and featureless, embedded directly into the cliff face. No hinges, no seams, just brushed metal catching the early dawn like a secret being confessed. I pulled out my recorder, pressed play. Static hissed, spitting bits of words I hadn't spoken. Turn back. Wrong frequency. They're already awake. I froze. My breath fogged, though the air was warming. I replayed the tape. The words were gone. Just static now, clean and empty. Down in the canyon, the air shimmered, the kind of mirage you see over hot asphalt, except this was cold, pre-dawn air. And then, from somewhere deep behind that steel wall, a sound. Not mechanical, not digital, something alive. A single drawn-out pulse, like sonar, like the earth itself exhaling through the cracks. I stumbled back, rocks scattering beneath my boots. The light on my dashboard flared, the car's engine revving on its own, headlights cutting through the canyon floor below me. And there, for the briefest instant, I saw it. A reflection moving across the steel door. Not mine, not human. Tall, luminous, watching. The hum deepened, vibrating through the stones. My vision blurred. The EMF meter in my pocket screamed. Then the door glowed, a perfect ring of light forming around its edges, lines connecting in clean geometry. I lifted the camera, hand shaking. The lens fogged instantly. The ring brightened until it hurt to look. The tone rose, layered, harmonic. My phone cracked, screen bleeding blue-white. And then, silence. The door went dark. The ring vanished. Dawn broke behind me, spilling gold over the ridges. The steel face reflected nothing, just a cliff, just shadow. I stood there, breath caught in my throat, knowing what I'd seen, knowing it would never be on the film. Because they said UFOs disappear at dawn. But I'd seen where it went. And I wasn't done yet. The sun came up like a lie, soft, pink, pretending the night hadn't happened. The canyon below me looked ordinary now. No door, no shimmer, just stone and dust and a single crow tracing circles over nothing. I climbed down, boots slipping on loose gravel. Every few steps, I stopped and listened, hoping to hear that hum again. Nothing. Just the brittle hush of morning. The kind of silence that follows when something important decides it's finished talking. At the canyon floor, the sand was warm already. The wind hadn't reached here yet. I knelt where I thought the steel door had been and brushed at the ground. Only rock, no metal. But my compass, old army issue, spun like a drunk. I opened my notebook, drew the shape I'd seen, a rectangle, no seams, a halo of light. Underneath, I scribbled what I felt but couldn't explain. Doorway or disguise. When I looked up again, something new caught the light. Footprints, not mine, not boots. Smooth, oval impressions, spaced too far apart for any human stride. They led away from the cliff, across the canyon floor, and vanished into the shadow of the next ridge. I followed. The sand was soft, each print shallow but perfect. When the wind moved, the edges didn't blur. The shape held, like the desert refused to erase it. Half a mile in, my Geiger counter ticked once, then stopped. The sound was so sharp against the quiet that it startled me. I checked the screen, dead flat again. Battery full, but no reading. I slapped the side like it would answer. It didn't. The trail climbed through a narrow cut in the rock, walls so close I could touch both sides. The air felt charged, not hot, not cold, just alive. The kind of air that remembers lightning. Halfway through, the static came back, faint at first, then louder. My phone vibrated, flashing a single notification that vanished before I could read it. The sound in my head, not in the air, in my head, rose like pressure in an airplane cabin. I came out the other side shaking. The valley beyond looked untouched, a wide, flat basin surrounded by red cliffs, baked white by sun. In the center stood something that didn't belong there. A tower, thin, black, maybe 20 feet tall, smooth as obsidian. No doors, no seams. It pulsed once. My recorder clicked on by itself. "You're not supposed to be here." The voice wasn't mine. It wasn't anyone's I knew. I circled the tower slowly. No reflection, no texture, just black glass drinking in light. The EMF meter screamed again, high, shrill, then flatline. I stepped closer. The closer I got, the colder the air became. When I was within arm's reach, I heard whispering. Not from the tower, from everywhere else, the rocks, the sand, the air behind me. I pressed my palm against the surface. Instantly, the world shifted. The canyon behind me was gone. The light changed, not sun, not shadow, something in between. I was standing in the same place, but the sky above had turned deep gray, the horizon pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. And then I saw them, shapes, dozens of them. Standing in the distance, motionless, barely outlined, like figures seen through smoke, each one glowing faintly around the edges. Watching. My hand tore free from the tower. The world snapped back, sun, heat, silence. The shapes were gone. I staggered back, nearly falling. The tower pulsed once more, dimmer this time, like it had exhaled. The recorder clicked again. My voice, shaky, frightened, spoke on its own. "They're not leaving. They're hiding." I didn't remember saying it. The tower went dark. I turned and ran. By the time I reached the car, the desert was bright and cruel. No shadows to hide behind. No hum. Just heat rippling over everything like the memory of water. I sat behind the wheel with both hands shaking. My shirt clung to me. My pulse was still syncing with the tower's rhythm, even though I'd left it miles behind. I played back the recorder. My voice, flat, whispering, terrified, repeated the same phrase over and over. They're hiding, they're hiding, they're hiding. Then a burst of static so loud it hurt, and beneath it, faintly, another voice. I'll find the door again. I dropped the recorder onto the passenger seat and stared out at the horizon. The world looked normal, boring even. But something in me knew the normal part was the lie. I drove east. Every few miles the radio flared into white noise, then quieted, like it was testing if I was still listening. The road narrowed into a canyon trail that most GPS maps forgot existed. I kept the car steady, tires grinding over red dust, engine whining in protest. The light was gone, but I could feel where it had gone. My chest buzzed, a faint vibration that came and went with the curves of the road. I'd followed lights before, meteor showers, satellites, weather balloons. But this wasn't that. This was deliberate, intelligent, interested. Around noon, I pulled over beside an abandoned gas station, windows broken, pumps gutted. A wind chime made from shell casings tapping softly against a faded, open sign. Someone had painted over the word open with black spray paint. The new word said, don't. Inside, dust turned the light gold. A calendar on the wall still marked 2003. A counter littered with broken CB radios. I tried one out of habit just to see. It clicked to life. A burst of feedback screamed through the room, then cut out. After that, silence. Then a man's voice, faint, distorted. If you're hearing this, they're still using the ridge. Don't follow the light. I froze. The ridge, the one I'd just left. The voice repeated once, slower. Then static filled the speaker until the unit overheated in my hand. The plastic melted a little, soft and toxic. Outside, the sky was beginning to haze, not clouds. A shimmer, like the whole horizon was vibrating. The same kind of distortion I'd seen before. The steel door appeared. I packed up, adrenaline cutting through the exhaustion. I couldn't leave now. I needed proof. Not for them, for me. I drove toward the shimmer, past the last skeletons of Joshua trees, past the point where the road stopped pretending to exist. My phone battery hit 0, screen dying mid-map. The hum returned. Deeper now, through the steering column, into my bones. Then, movement. Up ahead, through the glare, a shape hovered low over the desert. Not spinning, not drifting, just waiting. Flat, wide, silent. Silver or maybe colorless, light bent wrong around it. I stopped the car, got out, sand baked through my boots. The shape rotated once, a slow, deliberate turn like it was making sure I saw it. It tilted, one impossible liquid motion, and slid toward the mountains. The same range, the same canyon. I grabbed the camera, hit record, and followed. Dust whipped around me. The hum grew teeth. Static tore through the air, swallowing every other sound. As I rounded the last bend, the world went perfectly still. The object lowered into the canyon. No fire, no noise, just descent. The steel door was there again, impossible, perfect, gleaming in sunlight that refused to touch it. The ship didn't crash. It entered. A seam opened down the door's center like a pupil dilating, light spilling out, swallowing everything in silence. Then the door sealed. Gone. The canyon returned to rock and wind. The light faded. But this time, I wasn't leaving. I waited for hours. The sun sank low, painting the canyon walls in bruised gold. My skin stung with salt and wind. Nothing moved, nothing breathed. The world was pretending again. But I knew what I saw. That door wasn't rock. It opened. It took something inside. I set up camp a few hundred feet from the ridge, tucked between two slabs of basalt. A cheap tent, a camera on a tripod, my recorder running. The car pointed toward the exit in case my courage changed its mind. By dusk, the desert turned quiet again, the kind of quiet that hums like a waiting room before bad news. I replayed the footage. It showed everything I remembered, until the moment the door opened. Then, static. The video froze mid-frame, colors melting into one another, the timestamp spinning out like a clock that forgot how to die. I stared at the screen until my reflection looked like someone else's. Then I noticed something. A faint silhouette in the last frame before it glitched. Not a ship, not light, a figure. Tall, thin, standing near the canyon wall, watching. I zoomed in until the pixels collapsed, but the shape held. My throat went dry. The wind picked up. It carried with it a faint metallic tang, like hot wires after rain. The EMF meter chirped softly in my pack. Then the static came back. Not from the recorder this time. From everywhere. A low hum spread across the canyon, building like pressure behind glass. I stood, scanning the ridge. The stars above began to blur. No, to move. One by one, points of light detached from the constellations and slid across the sky, forming a perfect circle above the canyon. They hovered, pulsing in sync, the rhythm too human to be coincidence. I whispered, "I see you." The hum deepened. The circle shifted, tilting slightly, aligning with the mouth of the canyon. Then, light. Not white, not blue. Something else. The color of thought. It spilled down from the circle, pouring into the valley in complete silence. Every piece of metal around me began to tremble. The camera, the tent poles, the car. The air thickened, heavy and alive. My breath came out in clouds, though the night was warm. The canyon wall shuddered. Dust fell in slow motion. And there, once again, the outline of the door. Not glowing this time, forming. Solidifying from the rock like memory returning to flesh. My instincts screamed to run. But obsession doesn't know how to run. It only knows how to get closer. I grabbed the camera and stumbled toward the light. The closer I got, the louder the hum became. The ground vibrated. My bones joined in. When I reached the edge, the air smelled of ozone and rain that hadn't fallen. The door stood wide open now, black inside, deeper than darkness should be. The light above flickered. The circle began to fade, one star at a time winking out. But the hum didn't stop. It shifted, becoming layered, harmonic, almost melodic. I held up the camera, but the screen showed nothing, just void. I stepped closer. One more foot, then another. The hum resolved into a voice. Not words exactly. Tones, cadence, like language filtered through a dream. And in that sound, something inside me recognized something older than fear. I whispered, "I'm here." The darkness pulsed. The edges of the door brightened faintly, casting thin lines across the canyon floor like veins of silver. Then, motion, from inside. A figure stepped forward. Not tall, not monstrous, human, almost. It paused just within the light. The air around it shimmered, bending wrong. I couldn't make out a face, just two small reflections where eyes should be. It raised a hand, slowly, like a greeting. And in my head, a voice that wasn't mine said, "You kept watching." My vision flickered. The ground tilted. And then I wasn't standing anymore. When I opened my eyes, the sky had changed. Still stars, still desert, but sharper, nearer, as if the atmosphere had thinned out. The air tasted metallic. The hum was gone. In its place, a slow pulse that might have been my own heartbeat echoing through the sand. I was lying at the bottom of the canyon. My tent, the car, the ridge, gone. Only the wall of rock with the steel door, now sealed again, smooth as poured glass. The camera lay beside me, screen cracked, battery drained. I tried to stand. My legs obeyed, but sluggishly, like moving underwater. Every sound, the crunch of grit, my breathing, arrived a second late. I checked my watch. It said 5:37 a.m. I remembered looking at it before the light, when it was just past midnight. 5 hours vanished. I played the recorder. A click, then a soft murmur. You followed. You saw. The voice was neither male nor female. Calm. I rewound. The tape was blank again. The canyon began to brighten with pre-dawn gray. For a moment I thought I saw a faint seam where the door had been, a ghost of geometry on the rock. I pressed my palm to it. Warm, too warm for morning stone. My fingertips tingled. Images flashed behind my eyelids, frames of light, patterns, maps, a coastline, circles within circles. Then a sudden jolt, the vision of a mountain range, familiar, farther north, the same light pulsing above it. I stumbled back, heart hammering. They weren't gone. They'd moved. The wind carried a sound down from the cliffs, a short, metallic chirp, like radio interference caught in the open air. Then another, higher. The pattern repeated, deliberate, mathematical. I wrote it in my notebook as best I could. Morse, a signal, a breadcrumb. By the time the sun cleared the ridge, the heat was already rising. I forced myself up the canyon wall, every muscle protesting. At the top, where the desert opened wide again, the world looked rearranged. The highway in the distance shimmered like a mirage. I turned the compass east. The needle spun, then locked north, toward the Sierra foothills. The direction from my vision. In the distance, a glint. Faint, but there. A flash that didn't belong to the sun or to me. I packed what was left, the broken recorder, the cracked camera, the notebook. My reflection in the car window looked older, eyes sunken, skin gray with dust. I whispered. You kept watching. And the window fogged in response, as if something on the other side exhaled. Then the radio clicked on by itself. No static this time. Just a steady beeping, matching the pattern I'd written down. I gripped the steering wheel. The light on the horizon blinked once, like an invitation. The engine turned over, and I drove toward it. The farther north I went, the stranger the world became. Cell towers gone. Highway lights gone. It was as if the map had been erased behind me. Even the stars shifted. Brighter, harder, wrong. The beeping on the radio pulsed every few minutes. No voice, no music, just that same pattern. After a while, I stopped hearing it with my ears and started feeling it in my ribs. By dawn, I reached a range of black rock that rose out of the sand like old bones. No signs, no fences. Just a single dirt road curling up into the foothills. I followed it until it ended at a plateau littered with weather-beaten antenna towers. Most were broken, their dishes hanging like wilted flowers. The compass needle went crazy again. The air buzzed, not sound, more like pressure, like standing near an invisible generator. I cut the engine and climbed out. Somewhere above the ridge, a flicker, the same light. Smaller this time, like it was conserving energy. I dragged the camera out of my bag, tried to power it. Dead. So I did what I'd been doing for days, followed with my eyes and my heartbeat. The light moved along the mountain's spine, dipping low, steady. When the first real sunlight hit, it dove straight into the stone and vanished. That's when I saw the scar. Not a cave, not a natural cut. A perfect circle, maybe 20 feet wide, carved clean into the rock face. Inside, nothing but black. I shouted, "I saw you!" The echo came back slower than it should have. From the darkness, a whisper rolled out, dry and electric. "You asked to know." My throat went tight. Who are you? The question changes you. I stepped closer. The air around the circle shimmered with heat, though the morning was cold. The edge of the opening was smooth as metal, warm under my fingers. Another pulse hit. My vision stuttered. For half a second, the black wasn't empty. It was filled with stars, moving, turning, as if I were staring into the night sky from somewhere that wasn't Earth. I pulled my hand back, gasping. The stars vanished. The notebook slipped from my pocket, pages flipping in the wind. When it stopped, one page was marked with new ink I hadn't written. 3 words. Behind the sky. The radio in the car screamed. A single tone, high and steady, made the air shake. The antenna towers around me quivered, dust falling like snow. I ran back to the car. The screen on the dashboard lit itself. No signal, no GPS, just coordinates scrolling, all zeros except for the altitude. Yo 32. 32 feet above something. I looked back at the mountain. The circle glowed faintly now, a perfect halo of light, rotating slowly, clockwise. I grabbed the flashlight, took 1 step toward it. The ground trembled. Sand lifted in tiny spirals, drawn toward the opening. The voice came again, clearer this time, from everywhere at once. Don't look for us. Look where we were. Then the radio cut off. The light snapped dark. The air collapsed back into silence. When the dust settled, the circle was gone. Just blank rock, warm and breathing under my palm. I turned toward the horizon. Somewhere out there, past the haze, another light flickered, small, blue, moving slow across the desert sky. And for the first time, I didn't chase it. I just watched, trying to understand what it meant when something wanted to be found, but not seen. I didn't drive right away. I sat there with the engine off and my hands gripping the steering wheel until the sun dropped behind the ridge again. The whole mountain range turned copper, then black. The wind died. The world waited. The beeping on the radio came back at dusk. Softer this time, almost polite. 3 long, 3 short, 3 long. I pressed the mic switch out of habit and whispered, "I'm still here." Nothing answered. But the static changed tone, like someone on the other end had leaned closer to listen. I turned the headlights toward the slope and saw the circle again, faint, hovering 6 inches above the rock face now, as if it had never been carved at all. The glow wavered like candlelight behind glass. I killed the lights, grabbed the flashlight, and started up the path. Each step made the static louder. The air thickened. It felt like walking into a pressure front. At the rim, the beam of my flashlight died. Total blackness. Then, just as I reached out, the circle opened. Not wide, just enough to show a thin slice of light inside. It wasn't white or blue this time. It was gold, like late afternoon sun reflected off water. Warm. Human. I hesitated. My reflection stared back from the surface, blurred and doubled. There was another figure beside me in that reflection, taller, faceless. I spun around. Nothing. Just the wind starting again, dry and metallic. A voice came from the open circle. "We hide because you keep looking." My mouth went dry. "You showed me first. You heard what others ignored. I don't understand what you want." The light brightened. It spilled across my boots, up my legs, over my hands. The air smelled like rain on concrete. "To leave," the voice said. "But you built doors instead of skies." The ground trembled. The glow inside the circle widened until it filled my whole vision. For a moment, I was standing nowhere. No desert, no air, no sound. Just brightness, moving like water around me. I reached out and felt something solid, smooth, warm, alive. Then another voice joined the first, distant but clear. "You've been recording." My hand went to the camera instinctively, though I'd left it by the car. The voice laughed, a short burst of static. Everything remembers, even you. The light dimmed, pulsing now, slower, like a heartbeat losing strength. I said, "If you want to leave, why come back?" No answer, just the pulse. And then a whisper right next to my ear. Too close, too human. "Because you never stopped calling." The light winked out. Darkness, the hum gone. The world ordinary again. I stumbled back down the trail, half blind. When I reached the car, the radio was off, but a faint voice hissed through the static, repeating the coordinates from before. The last number had changed. 0001. 1 foot above something. I looked out across the desert, where the stars were beginning to rise again. For a second, I saw a faint trail of light lift from the ridge and shoot into the clouds, silent, quick, final. And then the night swallowed it. The recorder in the passenger seat clicked on by itself. My voice, tired, hollow, spoke a single sentence I hadn't said. "They're not leaving. We are." I didn't sleep. I just drove. East, then north, chasing highways that weren't there. The stars bled across the windshield like frost. Every once in a while, the radio whispered the old pattern. 3 long, 3 short, 3 long, but quieter, fading. By dawn, I reached the edge of the desert, where the mountains peeled away and the land turned pale and open. The engine coughed. My hands shook. The horizon looked thin, as if the world's edges had worn through. I pulled off the road and killed the ignition. The silence pressed in. Too big, too clean. The notebook sat on the dashboard, open to the page I hadn't written. Behind the sky. The ink shimmered faintly in the morning light, like it was still wet. I flipped forward. New lines crawled across the paper, thin and trembling. Latitude, 36.7783, and longitude, 119.4179 W, altitude, 00. The numbers pulsed once and went still. Fresno County, Central California. A place with no connection to what I'd seen. I laughed, a dry, cracked sound. Then I turned the key again. Hours later, I found myself on a service road that cut between orchards and irrigation canals. The smell of wet earth was almost enough to make me forget the desert. Almost. At the end of the road stood a fence. Beyond it, a cluster of white domes shimmered in the heat, each one the size of a house. No signs, no guards, just the hum of distant generators. I walked closer. The air vibrated again, subtle, rhythmic, the same pulse, the same tone. Between the domes, a flash of metal caught my eye, a door built into a hillside, seamless, familiar. The wind stopped. The radio in my pocket came alive. A new voice this time. Male. Calm. "You've done well to follow." "Who are you?" I asked. "Maintenance." The word hung there, cold. I pressed against the fence. The metal warmed under my hands. The air smelled faintly of ozone again. "You've been marked," the voice continued. "They see through you now. You kept watching. Now you're the door." The signal cut. The world spun. I dropped to my knees, gripping the dirt until it caked under my nails. My skin buzzed. My vision fractured. Black domes, white sky, shapes moving just outside focus. When it cleared, the facility was silent again. Empty. The door in the hillside reflected the sun like a mirror. I walked toward it. Each step felt heavier, slower. The world thickened around me like honey. The reflection in the steel showed 2 figures, me and something taller behind me, its face a blur of light. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. The voice came again, softer, almost kind. "You wanted to know where they go." The door hissed open. Warm light spilled out, gold and human, same as before. "Now you follow." My body moved before my mind could object. I stepped into the light. The warmth hit like a tide. My ears filled with that deep pulse, the heartbeat of the thing I'd been chasing across the desert. For the first time, I didn't feel afraid, just small, accepted. The door closed behind me. Outside, the radio in my car clicked once, then transmitted a single sentence on repeat over every frequency. He found where they go. There was no tunnel, no chamber, no walls. The light swallowed everything, color, weight, time. For a moment I thought I was floating, but then I realized there was no up, no down, just motion without distance, falling without falling. Something moved beside me. Not a shape exactly, an impression. A ripple in the light. It pulsed softly, and each pulse carried words I didn't hear so much as remember. You kept looking because you're already part of it. The light folded inward, resolving into layers, threads of gold and blue woven like neural pathways. I saw flashes of my car, the desert, the steel door, the tower, all stretched along those threads like beads on a wire. Each memory hummed when I touched it. I asked the only question left. Are you them? We were. Were what? Travelers, observers. We built mirrors to find each other. You call them skies. The pulse deepened. The space around me flickered between landscapes, the canyon, the ridge, the orchard domes, all overlapping, each real and unreal at once. I said, you hide behind the sky. We hide inside it. I saw the first night again. My car on the highway, the light above me, the radio cracking open with that impossible tone. Only now I saw myself reflected in the glow, smaller, mirrored, the same pulse echoing in my chest. Every signal needs a receiver, the voice said. You tuned yourself to listen. Now you transmit. My body began to shimmer, edges dissolving into the same golden light. For a moment, panic clawed at me. No, I'm human. You were. You asked to know. Knowing changes form. I tried to step backward, but there was no backward. Just light, looping, spiraling through itself. I felt heat behind my eyes, and when I blinked, I wasn't blinking. I was shifting. Through the brightness, other silhouettes appeared. Dozens, hundreds. All glowing faintly, familiar in posture if not in face. Some stood, some floated, all facing the same unseen horizon. They weren't aliens. They were us. Fragments. Echoes of every person who ever looked too long at the night sky and felt something look back. The voice thinned to a whisper. We go where the watchers are born. We build the next door. I saw Earth below, a blue sphere, clouded and alive. Threads of light webbed around it, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. The network grew, branching, spreading, until it disappeared into the void. Then I was falling through it, fast, cold, silent. The darkness cracked open. I was back in my car, parked on the side of a highway outside Barstow. Morning sun on my face, radio silent. For a long time I didn't move. The dashboard clock read 6:03 a.m., 2 days since the last thing I remembered. On the passenger seat lay my notebook. A single new line written in handwriting that wasn't mine. We left you the door. I looked up. Across the desert, the horizon shimmered. Faint, rhythmic, steady. The same pulse. I started the engine, rolled down the window, and listened. Somewhere in the static between radio stations, a soft voice whispered back, familiar and infinite. They said UFOs disappear at dawn, but you know better now. Then the transmission ended. The sky, perfectly blue, was still watching,